Hi, this is Paolo from Preta3D.com, 3D ready to wear. I was born and raised in Italy, so it's not a surprise that I love the world of fashion. Now, every now and then I like to relax by watching the Rachel Zoe Project on Bravo TV. And so one day I was watching and I noticed something interesting. Let me show you. Here, let me play this clip a second.
Gotta go.
Right there. See how they do the lower third? I like that style. I think it's very pertinent for the show. It's new. It's kind of challenging. So I thought, how can we recreate that in Blender? And so I thought about this new tutorial, and this is what we're going to see today. How to recreate that banner look using Blender's cloth simulation. Let me show you how it's done. Let's switch back to Blender. And let me arrange the scene a second. Okay, here we have our top view, our right view, the camera point of view, and our buttons panel. I'm using Blender 2.49. I thought about using Blender 2.5, the beta, actually the Alpha 0, has been just released a few days ago. I tested it, and the cloth simulation is not quite there yet. Let's stick to Blender 2.49b and see how this works. We'll start by adding a plane, and I'll just switch to object mode and scale the plane using the S key, and then I'll use the Y key to constrain the scaling in the Y axis. And we're going to go about a 4, I think this is about right, 2, 4, 6, let's make it 8 units, okay? There you go. So here it is. It's lie down on the floor. We want to change the orientation of this. I'm gonna operate here in the right panel, press R, and 90 for 90 degrees rotation, and this will cause a rotation at 90 degrees. We're gonna move it up a little bit. Okay, so let's rotate our view, take a look at the scene. Okay, so now we have a plane, but this plane is made of only 4 vertices. If we press Tab and we go into Edit View, you see there are 4 vertices. That's not enough for our cloth simulation. So I'm gonna be sure by pressing A that I'm selecting all vertices, and then I press W and I subdivide this a few times. Okay? Subdivide and subdivide and subdivide, and let's do it one more time. All right, so now we have enough resolution. Good, looking good. And what we can do is to click into our object. Let me resize this. Right click on this and select vertical, so we see a little more. And I'm gonna just scroll this pane so you can see the remaining buttons. And we click on the object button, and here we're gonna click on the physics button. This will give us access to the cloth simulation. Okay? So with that, I'm gonna just press cloth, enabling it. I'm going to switch to silk. A banner is actually made out of silk. And then in this view, let me switch to the front side. Perfect. Okay? Right here. Now, if we simulate the cloth here at this point, it will just drop in the emptiness. There's nothing holding it. So what we need to do is to create an area where the cloth is actually pinned, kind of like the point of contact of a banner with a pole. And we're going to just use one of these edges. And I'm going to do it here at the lower edge and later on it will become clear why here and not at the top. So with a 3D view, I mean front point of view, I'm going to click on Weight Paint. A weight paint system is used to basically create a group of vertices that will be enabled to be the pinning point of this cloth. It will become clearer in a second. So I'm going to switch to Add, and my brush size is going to be around 11 or so. And I'm going to just paint this edge. Where the paint is red, the cloth will be pinned. Where it's green, it will not. And I think I have a little bit of spill there, so let me just zoom in a little bit, and I'll switch my brush to sub so I can remove the paint and just paint that portion out. So we just have the red edge, and that will be the portion that will be pinned. We're going to give to this area a meaningful name. If we go to our object editing panel, we'll see that the group is called group. Let's call it cloth pinning. I should also try to learn how to type pinning. All right. Here it is, okay? This is much more meaningful. Let's switch back to our physics button. We are going to go to our cloth panel, and here I'm going to select pinning of cloth. The pinning of cloth requires a group. There is only one group. We will take automatically that group right now, so we're all set. What remains to do is to just press Alt-A and see how our banner animate. Blender goes through two phases. A first pre-pass, going through every single frame, and then it will animate. There you go. And it's working. It's working very, very nicely. We can even move our camera while the animation is playing. Isn't that nice? All right, I think I like it the way it is. There are a few problems though. Let's press ESC, and when I scrub, you see that basically the cloth is intersecting itself, which is not good. It's also pretty jagged and rough looking. Okay, so let's go to collision, and here we enable self collisions. What that does is to basically add more calculations and a little bit of intelligence in the simulation so that the cloth doesn't collide, doesn't intersect itself. It takes a little longer to calculate in this way, and we have to recalculate our simulation, but it adds a lot of realism. So again, let's press Alt-A. It's going through the simulation. Now we see all that bunching up, but that is really not what I was looking for. And on top of that, we see that the cloth is really kind of faceted, and those are all the sides of our polygons. So not really what we were looking for, but this is a perfect example of the steps involved in creating a good simulation. So let's see how we can fix that. First of all, if we look into our right side view, we see basically that the cloth is perfectly perpendicular to the floor, and so basically it's falling onto itself. So if we just press R, okay, and we rotate it just a tiny bit, now our simulation will have a different result. Again, let's try it. And now we see that the cloth is still colliding and bunching up, but is actually falling right away. So changing the orientation of your model will actually change the way it behaves, because the physics engine of Blender is really simulating gravity and how it affects in real life a piece of cloth. So now we see in real time how it plays. That's nice. We still have the faceted surface, and still is basically bunching up too much at the beginning. So for the second problem, the bunching up, we just change the orientation. And for the faceted look, let's click on our editing button and we select Set Smooth. Okay? Now let's replay our animation. Again, we are calculating. This is a perfect time also to highlight the fact that I pinned the lower portion of the cloth because I knew that it was going to fall using just a simulated gravity. And now we see this running really well. This is more the effect that we wanted. There we go. Nice. Not too bad, not too bad. I have to say, very, very nice for a few minutes of work. Now, what is wrong with this is that, well, it's going the wrong direction. We want from left to right, not top to bottom. Now, of course, we could just render this the way it is and then rotate the whole composition in After Effects, but we do have the option to make it work in the right way. So let me show you how it's done. So I really like the way it works, but I really want also this to be in the right orientation. So what I'm going to do here in the front view, I'm going to press R and 90 for 90 degrees. Let's remove that transform properties, move them away. Okay, so now, of course, if we play the simulation at this point, it will go in the wrong direction. It will basically fall sideways, and we don't want that. Okay, that's a nice effect for other situations, but not what we want now. So how we fix it? Very simple. Let's switch back to our physics panel, and here in the cloth simulation, click on the tab, and the gravity can be applied on any of the three axes. So we have X in this direction, we have Y perpendicular, and Z up. Right now the simulation is using the normal gravity value of 9.81 negative, because we are going down, the axis goes in incremental values up, so it's a negative value. So what we want is instead to move this to have the flag simulation from left to right, and that would be basically on the positive x-axis. So what we do is simply to click on the X, type 9.81, and then 0 here. Now let's try again. Press Alt A. Oops, I was in the wrong field. So press Alt A, and we're going to have Blender again go through the simulation. Except that if we look at the orientation of this cloth by switching to weight paint, our pinning is here. So basically Blender has almost nothing to do. There is just a little bit of waving. This is not what we want. So let's take this and rotate it 180 degrees. Press enter, and now if we go to object mode, Now if we go to weight paint mode, there we go. Here we have our pin. The force should go this way. Let's try it. And it looks wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Great, great. A little lifeless. You know, after it starts falling, basically, it stops. There's some nice folding pretty much around here. That's nice. But not much in the line of action. Okay. So let's fix that, okay? How we create a little more of life in there. We can add wind, because flags, normally, we imagine them flowing in the wind. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna move, wrong button. I'm gonna move my cursor here, verify the position from the top view. Okay, we're in the right place. And I'm gonna add a circle. 8 vertices are just fine. We don't need anything fancy. Okay, so now we have our circle here. We're gonna use the circle as a source of wind, like a fan. We do this by simply highlighting, selecting the circle, and then going into the fields panel here, exactly in the same physics tab, and we select wind. All right. Now the wind is kind of oriented in the wrong direction, so let me change the view. The fall off shape of our wind by default is sphere. Let's change it to tube, and now I can change this to this orientation. Okay, and our strength, let's change this to 5. Now we see that the wind is blowing in the wrong direction. Let's turn it again. Okay, now it's in the right direction. If we click on this and go to weight paint, we see where the flag is going to be pinned. So it's not really useful for us to have the wind here, because it will be too far away from the flag when the flag is in position. So let's move this in the right place. Okay, and test it. Let's see how it works. Will the wind give some movement to our banner? It's already looking different. I like the way it's unfolding. Nice. Very nice. Really realistic. Okay. Have a little bit more movement, but not much more life. But I like the way it's unfolding, so I don't want to change this. I think we just need to add another wind force. So here in our top view, let me duplicate Shift D while selecting the wind. We'll duplicate it here and put it on the side and rotate it just a little bit. And again, we simulate our wind. Ooh, there's a little bit of intersection there. We will need to re-simulate that part, maybe turning the flag a little bit. Okay, there are a couple of things that are not working very well, but that's part of the deal. That's part of how you actually create the simulation. So it's all good to see these events right here. I have to say though, when the flag comes in final place, I really like the way it moves. That mess at that point is not good. So let's change a couple of things, okay? Click on this. And what we want to do is to maybe, let's change it in the other direction, okay? Let's rotate in the other direction. Here we go. And action. All right. Oh, it looks a lot better. Nice. Okay, looks good. Still not enough action once it's all unfolded. So let's add this. Maybe we should give a little more strength to this. Let's try to increase this to 7 and rotate it a little more. All right, let's see what happens now. Okay, that's the movement from the top. Okay, let's see from the front camera. You know what? I think I know what we need to do. It's just too horizontal. There is no vertical force, and that is not realistic. So let's go back to our physics panel, and here where we zeroed the z gravity, let's add like 1.5. Actually, minus 1.5 because we wanted to drop. Minus 1.5. There we go. So probably the wind is not really what we need to change. Let's try to reduce this back to 5. Don't want to have too much turbulence. And see where that goes. Already see a little drop. Nice. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely what we wanted. Oh yes. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Like it a lot. Beautiful. See, that's what we needed. A little more force in action there. There are nice wrinkles. Nice folds there, beautiful. That is just the effect we wanted. Oh, look how really moves. It's amazing. I mean, to think about that a free 3D program can do this. Amazing. All right, so I think at this point, I want to save my animation, my simulation. So let me go to a suitable location, Blender Tuts, and a PC flag. I'm going to call it PC flag 01. Save file. Good. Now we have our work safe. Let's see how we can make this even better. So if you look back at the original, you see that there is a logo. And then, of course, this text is actually just superimposed in compositing. But I like to have something like this. So we have the color, we have the logo is distorted. How we do that? Well, that is part of creating a texture for your 3D model. And Blender has excellent tools for doing that. So let's see how we do it. The first thing is we need to create a texture, and the texture needs to be projected on the 3D surface. To do that, we basically unwrap all the points, all the vertices of our model, this guy here, into a flat surface, something that is similar to a bitmap. That is called the UV map. So what we do is this. We switch one of the panels of Blender to the UV image editor. Okay, so this is how it shows. There's nothing special about it. Not yet. Now we switch to edit mode for our banner and we press tab to do that. Okay, so now we have all our vertices selected. If you don't have them selected, press A couple of times until you see that they are all selected. I'm going to press U and select Project from View. And that will give me exactly the same proportions here. That's what I want, because when I go in Photoshop and create a texture for it, I want to be sure that I have the right proportions so that my texture will be applied correctly. Now we can make this texture a little larger. So I press G for grab, then I move this in a more centered space, about like this. Okay. Then I press S for scale, and I'll scale this up a little bit. Okay. So now we have our texture map, and the texture map is basically a 2D view of our 3D object. What can we do with this? Now we can export this as a bitmap, basically something that we can load in Photoshop. Let's do that. With our map selected, if you don't have it selected, press L when the mouse is above the grid, where it's called an island. Press L, then you go to the UV menu, down to Scripts, and you select Save UV Face Layout. This will generate a bitmap corresponding to this view. The dialog that shows has a size. You could have 1024, 2048. Generally, the sides should be an increment in increments of powers of 2. So 512, 1024, 2048, etc. There is really no reason to go beyond 1024, so leave it there. Wire, leave it 1. Wrap, all faces. These are the options that I want selected. I press OK, and this will save a bitmap using the Targa format. So I'm going to call it PC flag underscore 01 TGA. We save it. It's all done. So let's switch it now to After Effects. I know you would expect Photoshop. I have to confess, I'm more comfortable with After Effects. I do a lot of graphic work, even still frames in After Effects. So let's import that Targa file that we just saved, and here it is, PC flag dash underscore 01 Targa. Open, and let's drag that to our composition. Okay, so here is the grid, or the wire as it was called in the export dialog box. This is just as a guide for the texture we want to create. What I like to do is to create the same circle with the initial, and well, in this case I'm going to use my own initial PC. Let's start with New, Shape Layer, and let's create a circle. All right, gonna move it in position. Okay, and I'm gonna just disable the background now, and this is about right. I don't want any fill. I don't want the fill type, and I'll have this white stroke at about 20, 23 pixels. That looks okay. I could also, if I just wanted to, change the opacity of my base layer so I can still see it, and work on my shape layer and position it exactly where I think it should go. So what we need to do is to add some text, just the initials, and here I have my Futura font, medium. I have a P, and I'll create another layer called C. Move these two in the right position. Okay. Maybe tilt them a little bit. Okay. There you go. Kind of the effect I want it. Maybe the C should be a little smaller, I think. Alright, let's change the font size just a little bit. Looks more balanced to me. Okay, and let's create another solid for our red background. So here, new, solid, have this nice red, 230, 14, 14. I think it's fairly close to the original, and I move it down. Okay, here, looking good. Okay, let's see how this works. What we need to do now is to simply, well, save our project. Let's call it, let's say PC flag. We call it PC flag 01. Now you understand the title at the beginning, PC flag for Paolo Ciccone flag. And we're gonna save it as a single JPEG. Here we go. So here we're gonna select a preset I made, just a JPEG output, JPEG sequence, nothing special. And our destination. Okay. Save, render, loud as hell as usual. And let's switch back to Blender. Now what we do is simple. We take our flag and we create a new material. Okay, so click on the button for the material and add new. We could change the name of this material, for example. Let's call it flag texture. Actually, flag matte. And we want to add a texture to this instead of just using the color option. The texture will be the image that we just created. We have a UV map, so the texture can be mapped perfectly to fit our flag. In order to create a texture map, we need to click on the texture button. We add a new texture. Let's call it flag texture. And in the texture type, we select image. All right. And then we have our load button. Now with the load button, we can click, select PC flag 01000. That is really not correct. So let's go back to our Finder and change the name of the file. All right, let's switch back to Blender. We can refresh the screen by simply clicking on the single dot. There you go. And here we have PC flag 01 JPG. Select the image. And now we have the preview here. Looks good. What we need to do now is to basically instruct Blender on how we want to map this on the flag, on the model, because there are many different options. So here is how we do it. We click back on the material buttons. In the map input option, here in the texture panel, in the map input, we select UV. In the map to, we select color, which is the default. Okay, good. Now we can see the preview of the material, which is following perfectly. The map input, selecting UV, tells Blender that we want to use this texture with the UV map. And the map to tells Blender that this is a color texture. It could be a normal map, it could be an alpha map. There are many different options. In this case, we just say to Blender, use it for the color. And in here, we have the blending mode, kind of like the blending mode in After Effects. I just want to use color. I don't want to mix. I don't want to screen. I don't want to add. Just flat color it. The lighting will do the rest. So now, let's recalculate our simulation. Before I do that, I want to Control W, save my file, and Alt A, simulate it so that we have a few frames of simulation, and then we will be able to render some sample frames to see how the map is working with our model. There you go. Nice movement. How is the texture working? So let's find a nice spot like this. And of course, we cannot render anything because, as we see from our camera, we didn't position the camera. The camera is pointing to some place away. So let's zoom out a little bit. Find our camera right here. Okay? You see the camera is just looking away. Right, so let's switch to our 3D view here so we can see the top view. We're going to move the camera in position. Or we can just move the camera here, switching the mouse to the camera view and pressing Shift F. And that will automatically map the movement of the mouse to the camera, which is nice. It's a nice way of positioning. All right, so now we are framed fairly well. Let me switch to our top view and kind of move away, grab the camera and move away from it so I can see the end of the simulation. It's looking good. Maybe rotate it a tiny bit to be more frontal. And a couple of adjustments. Yeah, I think it looks good. Now, if I try to render again, nothing will happen. I mean, something is showing, but it's all black because I don't have lights. I actually have my light, one light in a different layer. Let me show you here. Layer 2, we have the light, so I'm going to shift click on that layer, and the light is here. I'm going to move it in position, orient it a little better, and I'm going to click on the light. Well, it's already selecting the material light button, so we're all set. I'm going to disable the shadow. I don't need a shadow for now, not for this render. And let's see. If I look at this from the side, the light is not perfectly straight. I really want kind of a flat lighting for this. No much dramatic effect for this. All right, let's do a render. Well, it does work. We see the texture being mapped perfectly, except it's on the wrong side. So that's okay. That means our map, our UV map is flipped. So what we do, I don't want to reorient the flag because our pinning is done right and it's already calculated in the right way. So what we do is to switch again to our UV map. Okay. Right click on the flag, going to edit mode. And in the UV menu, we go to, let me see here, there is a mirror option, and we mirror on the x-axis. Seems like nothing happened, but basically just mirror the map. So now, let's go back to our simulation. We do have to recalculate. We are, at this point, we can already stop it and see if our bitmap is happening in the right spot. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so let's finish the animation at this point. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. All right. 140 now. 160. Getting at the end of our 250 frames. Oh, I like those ripples. Those are great. Great. All right, here it is. Not bad at all. So let's find a nice spot for a render. That looks great. Here we go. Nice. I would say it's a little dark. And let's see a spot where there's more action in the logo. Nice. Okay, let's change the lighting. You know what? I think I'll need to double that light. So let's go to 3D view, top view. Here we go. Have the light selected, Shift D. Okay, and maybe just a little tilt. See how it works. Nice. I like that a lot. Let's see. Maybe we can add a little bit of character by tilting this light down a little bit. No, not the. Let's see. Which one is that? Oh yeah, that's the right one. So I'm gonna lift it up, tilt it down a little bit, see if it does help. I don't see much of a difference, but it doesn't hurt either. So let's tilt it a little more like this, and maybe make it a little closer to the flag. Okay. And I'm going to move this a little closer than on the side. Actually, you know what? I think they need to be oriented in this way. The way the flag moves. All right, good. I like that. All right, there is a little bit of the end of the flag is visible at the beginning of the frame, so we need to reposition our camera just a bit. So that is easily done. Just come a little closer. Just a little closer. There you go. And maybe just up a little bit, like this. Okay. Couple of renders. Oh, that's beautiful. Let's see that. Oh, that's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Nice. Really like the way it's behaving. That is very nice. So let's render it. So what we need to do now is to see how this works inside a piece of footage. So what I'm going to do here is to render this out with an alpha channel and then bring the animation inside After Effects, and then we'll simulate a lower third. So let's switch to our scene options. Okay. And I think I'm going to just use the NTSC setup because I know I'm going to try this on a piece of standard definition footage. And this introduces another wonderful part of this. Since you're making this animation with Blender and you're using 3D objects, then you can render multiple versions for standard definition and high definition, 720p or 1080p. You can have all the versions optimized for the screen sides and never lose definition. It's very nice. All right, so what I'm going to do here, it's 720 by 480. We have our frames 30, but with a correction for the 29.97. Our pixel ratio is correct again for the interlaced format. And I'm going to use PNG. I'm going to use a sequence of PNGs. When you're rendering from a 3D package, you generally always render sequence of images. I have another tutorial where I explain that in detail for now, bear with me. Sequence of images, we know that After Effects reads those and Premiere reads those just fine. So sequence of images, and in our sequence option we are going to select pre-multiplied, and in my render layers I don't need the halo, I don't need the sky, I don't need the strand. Okay, so when I do a render now, I don't have the blue sky. I do have an alpha channel. If I press A in the render window, I can see the alpha channel. So at this point, I just need to set the output directory, and I click on the folder icon. And let's create a directory here called render. So I go here in the field where the directory name is, and I type renders, and I press enter. Because the directory doesn't exist, Blender asks me, do you want to make the directory? I say yes, of course. And then I'll call the file pcflag underscore pound 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 dot png. In place of the 4 pound signs, there will be an incremental number created automatically by Blender. We confirm our choice, and we are ready to create our animation. 250 frames. Let's go. And here is our animation. Okay, so our render is finished, so we can close this window and switch to After Effects and see how we use this with real footage. First of all, let me import a clip. This is from Artbeats. A nice aerial shot of Canadian mountains. All right, beautiful. And let's add our lower third. Here is our render. We click on the first file of the series. Be sure the PNG sequence is checked. Click open. And now we move this on top of our comp. And here it is. Nice. A little too big, a little too centered. Very easy to correct. We're going to move this down, maybe scale it down a bit, just a bit. A little more. Okay, looks good. And now we see that the orientation is a little skewed. We see that this is a little low. It was pointing down because of the additional gravity that we applied to the z-axis, and that was good to create the effect, but I really don't want it pointing down in this way. So we just let's just rotate a little bit, and just a small correction like this. All right, move in place. So looking good. Maybe still a little too big. So we can just lower it a little bit. Like this. Okay. Looking good. All right. Let's add the text at this point. Let's see how the animation works. Nice. Beautiful. So what I like to do is to add a caption here. And we say something like Canadian mountains. I don't actually know what's the name of the mountains, so I'm gonna stay on the generic side. All right, let's change a little bit the color Give it a little more character. Okay. That looks good. All right. And what we want to do is to animate the text to appear in sync with the animation and then fade away. So first of all, let's cut the layer at this point. Then here we want to, I would say, half a second before to fade away. So let's get our transparency animated, set the keyframes, we go here, there you go, and 0, and it fades away. So we are good for the exit point, and now the entry point is going to be a little more laborious. So let me see. Okay, let's say that we want to start at this point, like here, start revealing the text. I want to use, and I'm going to move up to a point where the flag hits the M, since the M is offset. Okay, at this point I want to start rolling the text, revealing the text by using the same animation. So what we do is, with the text selected, create a mask and just drag it around the text. There you go. Okay, let's make it a little tiny bit bigger. And at this point here, I'm going to animate the mask path. Okay. So that we take this all the way down. Okay. And at this point, there you go. At this point, we want to open that mask a bit. So let me just zoom in so I can get the handle correctly and move it to the right. Move it more. There you go. That's the movement. Okay. We want the text probably just a little bit lower. Looks more centered. There you go. And see how it works. I think it looks pretty good. Alright, so let's play our animation. And it works beautifully. Now, one thing I like to add is a little bit of drop shadow to the text. So let's go to our effects, perspective, and drop shadow. Maybe a little bit more in the opacity channel. And this is pretty good. Yeah, I kind of like it. Let's do a quick ramp review. Perfect. I like the way it is. It looks great. It's different than your usual lower third. And of course, you can change the texture on the flag to anything you want, any colors you want. You can even use a movie, so an animated texture. So I hope this was helpful for you. My name is Paolo Ciccone for preta3d.com. See you next time.